A Sit With Me Saturday. I guess the video needed a moment to adjust there. So anyway, Sit With Me Saturday. This is A Manard Mitra Yah, Monks of the Way. And today, kind of an involved one, I don't know, we'll see. It's MN9, Mid-Length Discourses, the ninth talk. And it's labeled Right View, although it's a lot more than that. The name is a little misleading there. And if you go in sequence, things make sense. Things get reinforced, things get expanded upon, expounded upon. So anyway, it's a Sit With Me Saturday. I appreciate you coming by, hanging out with me. I don't know if anybody has joined yet. I guess I would give them a minute to do that. And of course I do want to just jump right in, but I'll try to be patient for a minute. So far I haven't set a particular time to these lives. This live is, I think, going to be 45 minutes. We'll see. Let's see. Warning, frames per second too low. Could be a lower quality stream, it says. Well, what can I do? What can I do? I can only do what I can do. So we'll go forward and see what we can do. I'm not sure about this interface. I don't know if anybody has joined or not. I'm just going to go ahead and get into it, and at some point I guess I'll know that somebody's there. I don't know. But I don't want to wait all day to get into it. So let's do this. First of all, what we've got is the talk called Right View, the ninth talk in the Mid-Length Discourses. So MN9. And it says that Buddha was living in Jetta's Grove, and Sariputta talked to the monks. And he says, "Friends, monks." And they say, "Friend." And he says, "Friends, in what way is a noble disciple one of right view?" You know, in what way does a person have right view? The view that's straight, unwavering, confidence in the way of things, in the teaching, and has arrived at this true understanding of the way of things. Friend, we would come far and away to learn from Sariputta the meaning of this statement. They want to know what he has to say about this. Well, he says, "Listen, and I'll tell you." He says, "When friends, a noble disciple understands the unwholesome and the root of unwholesomeness, the wholesome and the root of wholesome, in that way, a person is of right view. View is straight, unwavering, confidence in the way of things, has arrived at this true teaching of the way of things." Well, that begs the question, of course, what is unwholesome? I think avid Buddhists already pretty much know what they can point to right away as unwholesome or wholesome because the precepts come to mind, right? He says, what is it? Well, killing living beings is unwholesome. Taking what's not given, unwholesome, stealing. Sexual misconduct is unwholesome. Lying, unwholesome. Malicious talk, unwholesome. Basically, being an ass. Hateful speech. Hate speech is unwholesome. Gossip is unwholesome. Covetousness, unwholesome. Ill will, unwholesome. Wrong view, unwholesome. That's called unwholesome. What's the root of unwholesomeness? What's the root of this stuff? Well, how about greed, hate, delusion? That's the root of unwholesome. And what is wholesome? What can we do to be more wholesome, more pure? Well, precepts come to mind, don't they? How about abstain from killing living beings is wholesome. Abstaining from taking what is not given, so you try not to steal, from sexual misconduct, from lying, from malicious speech, from over-the-top harsh speech, from gossip, from covetousness, ill will, all of that. He gives a talk and he makes a point, and then the monks say, good friend. That's good, friend, and they're just delighted that he's made that point. But then they ask a further question, and they're going to keep doing that. That's kind of the deal. People ask questions, you talk about it. So in this case, they go, is there another way that a person is of right view? And he says, yeah. He says, there just might be. He says, nutriment, the origin of nutriment, feeding. The way leading to the transformation of nutriment in the way he is of right view and has arrived at this true Dhamma, this teaching, this way of the things. He explains it that way. Well, let's see. Well, there could be physical food as nutriment, contact, mental volition, consciousness. With the arising of craving, there is the arising of nutriment. With the cessation of craving, there is the cessation of nutriment. The way leading to the cessation of nutriment is just the Noble Eightfold Path. And he's going to go into the Four Truths. And the 8 different areas of your life where you can look and see what you're doing, what you are currently. That's kind of at the end of the Four Truths. And I've talked about the Four Truths before, but not really in that kind of a context that we did here. And it's good to have a different context. They were delighted again, and they said, good, friend, and they're happy. But then they ask more. Is there another way that a person knows, that a person might, a facet of a person that has arrived at right view? He says, yeah. A noble disciple understands suffering, the origin of suffering, the cessation of suffering, the way leading to the cessation of suffering. In that way, yeah, has arrived at the true understanding of the way of things. And what is suffering? Now, if you know the Four Truths at all, you know what suffering is. And actually, different Buddhist traditions and monks will have disagreements about this, but I think it's pretty clear. I mean, look what he's saying. What is suffering? He says birth is suffering, aging is suffering, sickness is suffering, death is suffering, sorrow, lamentation, pain, grief, despair are suffering. Not to get what you want, suffering. In short, he's saying the five aggregates affected by clinging are suffering. This is called suffering. So, I think you can see there, if you're going to live, you're going to suffer. It doesn't say these things are suffering, but maybe they won't be. No, it says they are suffering. That's the way it is. They're happy about this, and good, friend, and here we go again. Is there another way? He says there might be. He says a noble disciple might understand aging and death, the origin of aging and death, the cessation of aging and death, and the way leading to the cessation of aging and death. In that way, once again, right view, arriving at a true understanding of the way of things. There's various orders of beings. They're passing away, dissolution, disappearance, dying, completion of time, dissolution of the aggregates, laying down of the body. This is called death. So it's very clear what he's saying is death. And some will tell you, oh, well, it doesn't have to be suffering to die. No, dying is suffering in one way or another. A person might not want to believe it, but yeah. And also it says, with the arising of birth, there is the arising of aging and death. So there you go. If you're born, you're going to suffer. If you're alive, you're going to suffer. After you're dead, all bets are off. You might not come back. You might not have the craving for the sensations and have the necessity to come back and do this again into this dumpster fire where a person can be happy. Let's go on with this. It's also, he says, good, friend, and they ask again. No, there might be another way that it's true also. What's another way? Well, a noble disciple understands being. After that, a noble disciple understands clinging. A noble disciple understands craving, understands feeling, sensation, tactile sensation, or whatever kind of sensation. Understands contact, the point of contact. And understands the sixfold base, the origin of the sixfold base. Well, what's he talking about there, right? And we're covering a lot of ground here. I have to apologize that unless you've really kept up with the teachings up to this point, leading up to this, then it's going to be hard for you to really keep track of, grasp this stuff correctly. But it's all there for you, and I make videos on all of the teachings, so you can go from MN1 to MN, 148 or something. What is the cessation of the sixfold base? What is the sixfold base? What are these bases? Well, some of you will already know. The eye, ear base, nose base, tongue base, body base, mind base, rising of mentality, materiality. There's a rising of the sixfold base. A noble disciple understands consciousness. A noble disciple understands forms. A noble disciple understands ignorance. A noble disciple understands the things that make them dirty. And it pretty much deals with that there, and then they're happy, they're delighted in what he said, and it's the end of the teaching. But I want to go a step further with this, and mention the way of the lotus. I wrote a booklet called The Way of the Lotus, try to explain some of this stuff, and I thought it had been saved through time, and I guess maybe it's been lost through time. So let me reintroduce it in a small way, and I should probably make it a separate video, but let's just give you a basic thing here. Suffering. If you're going to live, you're going to suffer. There's the four truths. There's the suffering. There's a cause for suffering. There's a cure for suffering. There's an end for suffering. Four things, right? And that's a quick down and dirty, so to speak, of those four truths. The bullet point, if you will. But the way of the lotus enters into this because you're going to suffer. You're going to reach nirvana. You're still going to suffer? Yes. What if you become a Buddha? Will you suffer? Yes. Well, how could I say that, right? The perfected one. How can the perfected one suffer? Didn't I just read this? If you're going to live, you're going to suffer. That's how it is. You can get better. You can transform into something that doesn't need to come back here. But, and so obviously along the way you suffer less, you suffer less, you suffer less. But not suffer? Absolutely not. And I'll give a citation. Was the, oh boy. Yeah, you might know, I wouldn't remember the name of it, but it's the one where he talks to the guy and he's like, it's a prince, and he has like a young boy, and he's saying, okay, well, what if the kid's choking? You know, through no fault of your own, he's choking to death. What are you going to do? He says, well, I'm going to try to fish it out. I'm going to try to fish it out as best I can. I mean, even if it makes him bleed, I'm going to try to get that thing out. And he's like, yeah. He's like, that's why I do what I do. I feel sorry for people. It's like they're choking on something and I want to remove it. Obviously, that's an intense suffering. The compassion that he has to be doing what he's doing. It's profound. I can't pay the guy back for the lifetime he spent there teaching. He could have just said, you know what, I've got it, I'm out. He didn't. He saw the suffering in the world, the causes of suffering, and he's like, I think I can help. I'm going to try. And so he tries. And it's the effort of trying, not necessarily the success. I should get back to the way of the lotus. So you have the suffering. What are you going to do with this suffering? Well, you're going to try to understand it. You're going to try to deal with it. There is immersion, like in psychology, there's like immersion therapy, like you're afraid of heights, so you do a simulator thing of being in heights, like a virtual reality, and you try to desensitize yourself to it. Okay, that's great, but that's not really what I'm talking about, at least not only what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is the down and dirty, the dealing with things and transforming that suffering, making the suffering meaningful. Anybody can suffer and be a victim. But someone who's a student of the teachings of Buddha, certainly a disciple of Buddha, they're going to make something of it. And this is where the way of the lotus comes in, because you can't have the lotus right out of the water and bloom unless you have that mud. That mud is made from decomposition, from the dying of things, from transformation. And out of that grows that lotus, striving towards the light, reaching the light, bursting through the water, and blooming, finally. I think it's a beautiful metaphor, or whatever you'd want to call it. So we have this Buddha nature, and so all of us, having been planted in suffering, will strive for the light instinctively. Even if we absolutely don't want to do it, we're going to do it. There's no way around it. It is our nature to do this. However, it can be so slow that it takes so many lifetimes to make real progress. If you're studying this stuff, you probably are able to grasp this stuff a lot better than some others. Some people are so lost they haven't even noticed that there's anything to study or anything to really have a life practice around. I do Sit With Me Saturday, and some people attend, but these are not the people that are out there trying to get laid, trying to get high, spending all night playing the video games, doing social media, all this stuff. They're taking some time to work on themselves, to have some solitude, to get themselves together. They're at least not engaging in those things. And I'm not saying all those things are bad. Nobody should ever do them. I'm just saying there's a certain type of person that's going to sit with me Saturday, and there aren't very many. So, congratulations for even watching the video. I'm telling you. It's not an us and them thing, though, really. I mean, there's levels, there's gradients. So, when things can click for you, they can click. These things that you heard me say today, there's going to be plenty of you where hardly any of it's really going to click. And that's okay. Something will probably click. I am confident that a year from now, even 2 months from now, if you were to try to work with any of this, more stuff would click if you watched the video again. Same words, same presentation, different click. Because you're ready, you have the ability, the capacity, the experience, the, so on and so forth. I appreciate your coming in here. I want to mention meditation, of course. I try to mention meditation in each one of these things. And I'm trying to go through this fairly quickly. There's a lot of information. I should make I do make different videos about different things. One of my videos is applying the 4 truths to life. That's really a good focus on the 4 truths. I have another video that's the path of 8. Great, goes into right view and all that stuff. The Delusion Sutta. So you can go into the different in-depth videos. This is maybe covering in a general. We're only 20, almost 23 minutes in. We're doing really great here. I've thrown a lot at you. You're doing really well. I appreciate you if you're still here. Maybe you weren't still here the first time around. Maybe you've come back, huh? So Way of the Lotus, really important. With meditation, I want to mention that can be a key part of this. One of the practices that you could do that's really easy to do, that at the end of the day, you can have your little meditation, whatever type of meditation, and then have this type of meditation where you look through your day and you find the points of pleasure, you find the points of suffering, and you try to understand, where does this come from? What feeds this? What starves this? What have I done to bring this? What have I done to walk away from this? What have I done to transform within this to make these experiences different for myself? And so you meditate upon this day after day, and I'm not saying, spend hours dwelling on how you suffered. That's freaking ridiculous. And I'm not saying the more you suffer, hey, the more it proves you really care, or the more it proves you're dedicated, and that's all. No, that's just doing things to suffer is not the way either. It's too far. Middle way. Definitely, let's go back to the concept of middle way. I tell people, if you're doing something and you're like, oh, it's my passion, and you're not really doing it, then it's not your passion. Also, if you're saying something's my passion and it has run over your life and made it a disaster, that's too much. Middle way, buddy. My guy, come on. So, That's the part of meditation I wanted to cover here. You could go through your day, see yourself going through your day, the emotions that you had, the thoughts that you had, the emotions and thoughts of others around you, the situations, really get a bird's eye view, a hindsight being 2020 kind of a thing. And it can be really helpful. There's many different kinds of meditation you can do. I'm not saying that should be your only type of meditation. It seems like that would be an additional meditation, like you would do your regular meditation and then you would do that. Although, you know, if you had to start somewhere, it certainly wouldn't be the worst place to start. And when people start meditation, they want to go overboard. I'm going to meditate for hours or an hour or whatever. Even a half hour is quite a bit for somebody who's starting. So like in many things, maybe you want to start off even smaller than you want to. So 10 minutes. If you had meditation for 10 minutes a day, whatever type of meditation, you're going to see super results. You're definitely going to. 10 minutes. Who can't keep themselves on it for 10 minutes? Who can't put 10 minutes aside? Just somebody who doesn't want to, am I right? So, you can. And I think it's a having to be ready thing. You can do a type of meditation and not be ready and nothing clicks really. And maybe you need a different type of meditation. So, there are hundreds of basic types of meditation. And so, please don't listen to these people that are like, just being silent and no thoughts or whatever. That's only what meditation is. Or it's only watching your thoughts from detachment. Or it's only controlling your thoughts to a topic. Or it's only thinking good thoughts. Or it's only concentrating on whatever. It's only... no, it's not just one thing. Hundreds of basic types of meditation. Types of focus, types of receptiveness, types of concentration of things. So many. I don't think I could ever cover them all. Not the way they would all need to fully be covered in a lifetime. I don't know that I could do it. We'll see. So I really appreciate people stopping by. I don't know who's there, if anybody. I'm not familiar with this interface look right here. If you have any comments or questions, I guess you could ask, but I don't know that I would see it. So I'm just going to close out. I appreciate you coming by and sitting with me Saturday, hanging out for a while. This I've been brought to you from a Starbucks, from the conference room in the Starbucks, and I appreciate Starbucks and its affiliates. It's a great day to be alive. I appreciate you guys. I really do.